the March, God, I can't believe it's March 6th Park Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda are the minutes from the last meeting. Everybody had a copy in their packet. Are there any changes, corrections, or omissions? Did anyone caught that?
It's just the one piece that was circled.
What was that?
There's something that was circled on my copy. I think it was supposed to be the or something.
I'm unaware of that.
Oh, the.
Oh, there's a T missing in,
Oh, a T missing in the T. Oh, I see.
Well, shame on you. Right.
So I'll move to approve with the change in that word.
Cross. Yeah. Move to say, any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next, also in your park was the update from Catherine and staff as to where we're at with our park dedication fees and where they're projected to go into the future. From there, has anybody got any questions?
Would this projection be what our maximum amount's going to be in the city based on what we have left for building space? And
I don't think it takes anything into account for Atwood or the...
Oh, I'm trying to think. Did it?
down on Mayor Road yet? I mean, that hasn't even...
Neither of those two
Oh,
parcels
okay.
have...
so nothing with annexation or...
This is more just.
No, this would
the
be
developments that are
golf
here
course.
now.
golf course,
The Ridge.
Presbyterian Homes, the golf course,
Okay.
Ridge Greens,
Yeah.
I believe. too.
Heritage Greens, everything that went in there.
And would you tell Brenda thank you? This was helpful.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before. So.
But it does beg the question that we should really look at going out here with the fact that we don't have much left for land that's ever going to be able to come into the city. We're hamstrung by the township.
Right.
Do we want to adjust those fees that we have going into the future? And I think that's something that we should really sit down and take a look at. And especially with the other part of it was in the packets was what our 5-year capital plan, improvement plan has been, and then where we're looking at wanting to take it out into the future now. Do we have this in any way that they can see it on TV, or we don't, do we?
Not tonight.
But I have.
Do you have a copy that you could at least give them
Yeah.
to peek at along with us? The audience can. See that.
Just one copy.
Mm-hmm.
Here, do you want to give them the update on the park? Okay, so should we just you want to talk about this and then just move on?
We'll just move on right now
I
to
mean, I guess, let's see, so there's really not anything that says, this is just, it doesn't really say what it can be spent on, right?
Yeah. So you can see in the handout that that we've got from our past plan and what we had projected, the items that are in the kind of greenish yellow are done or in stages of completion. The items that are yellow and highlighted throughout there are items that were in our plan, and we had asked for the capital improvements or the funding to be able to do them as we went, and those are the ones that are not done. What we have to decide as how we start moving forward with this is which we want to carry over and then prioritize each park by which ones we want to look at spending dollars in going to the future. And to those of you who are here for the pickleball, our position as a park board has been we're going to try and work with doing the pickleball. But nor, as you can see from the handout that you've got there, what projects don't we do if we're going to skewer dollars to the pickleball court, is really what it comes down to. And I don't think we're going to be at any position to even make any recommendations beyond just a general discussion tonight with us as to what these items are and then how we look at what that carryover is going to be into our plan going future. But we do, well, you can see in there that we did have, at one time, we had asked for dollars for pickleball courts this last year in 17. That got turned down in, which one was that?
Lakefront, I believe, and there was
White Camp and
it was in Lakefront too.
in Anderson. So, seeing what we have potentially coming in, at least for what's now in dollars for our impact fees and the restrictions that are on those, and then the other items come down to what go into our improvement capital when we go for bonding and funding from the city. Clear as mud. Tom, you want to present anything here? You and Deb taking over?
I mean, this is what we proposed a few years back in, well, 2016, and these are the projects, and it's, the green is highlighted areas that has work completed, and the blue is highlighted areas indicate carryovers of funds and work in progress, and the yellow highlighted areas include capital requests that have not been funded yet. So I guess at this point it's up to the park board if they would like to modify or change these requests that were approved by the park board back in 2016.
Has anything come up, or any of these where we have a failure in equipment or anything that we need to have at the forefront, or anything new that's been identified, whether it be a restroom or whether it be something along those lines? Is there anything that we need to shift at all?
I don't know what's going to come out of the riverfront study that the engineering firm has been doing with the city yet, as per recommendations of that. And they have been quite confident that their value lies in their ability to get funding for projects. So I think that will take, you know, a lot of anything that we would talk about for Lakefront Park, take that out to a further conversation than now. You know, I think that'll pretty much dictate anything that will become part of that. Pretty much from Picnic Point to St. Croix Street.
Sure.
As all part of that study. Leaving us, you know, we pretty much know where we're at and what we're doing with Anderson's, other than we do have or had planned for this year and didn't get funded, the $10,000 to resurface the basketball courts and that up there. Do we want to push that out to next year and ask for it again? Do we want to leave that in abeyance? Tom, do you have any thought or?
I don't know if that's included in the 2018 capital. I don't think it is.
It wasn't?
No.
Okay.
So, and seeing that it's not a new structure or new piece of the park, we can't utilize, that's another restriction of the park dedication fee. It has to be generally something new.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, not.
So we're just going to keep kicking that can down the road each year until?
I'd say so.
Well,
I would
If we
recommend you
get
put,
asked for funding
if you
into
don't
it
want
next
it in
year.
19 and
Yeah.
20, there's a 1920. Do you want to spend, I don't even know if 10,000 is a good number. We'd have to probably get an update on that, you know, or push it out further, because when you start adding up, so when you look at it, all the yellow versus the blue, this is all we got in the parks, and most of it was funded by donations. And this was a carryover from the band shell repairs, because that's urgent.
Yeah.
And the park dedication fees need or revisit that, will you please, what those can be used for, what the source of those fees
Tom, you want?
are?
I'll try. I know Catherine has, our city attorney has looked into it, and the way I understand it also is that it's for anything that's identified in the park master plan and for new items. It can't be used for maintenance, like reshingling the roof up at the pavilion or putting fixing the fence or something like that. Would have to be something identified in the master plan and something that hasn't been done yet in regards to the master plan or our 5-year capital plan.
And were those established by the city, or is that from the state, or?
That's by statute.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, at what point do we seek public input into this process?
I don't know the answer to that. You know, I mean,
I know, I get
we're going to want public input when we redo our master plan for the parks. Last time we did that, we had a public hearing and had listings of each park, and so that we could talk about each park and take notes about, here's what we as a park board had on our agenda or plan, what other items should we look at adding to that we haven't thought of or become part of it going into the future. Then once it's in that plan, then it can go into the other.
Another dumb question, but what's our operating budget?
Do what?
For parks?
Oh, for parks.
2 million? Million something?
Do you have that
It's
number?
like $1 million. I don't have it right in front of me. For just the operating budget, Mike?
Yeah.
We don't have it right in
It's
front
not
of us.
that much.
Right.
Yeah, because that goes into general labor.
Yeah.
And
And that's why some of these things that are listed on here are kind of, they really shouldn't be on here, but because we said we'd like to improve the trails, for instance, so we put it on there because really we could probably do 5,000 in a budget and explain why we want more money in the budget.
Okay.
And whether they'll give it to you or not. But. So, I guess.
So I think after the last park board meeting, we talked about putting pickleball on different places and, identify that in our 5-year plan.
yes.
So I think that's what we've been working on. So as we move forward with pickleball, that is, it's not only in White Camp, but it's in Grandview and some of the other parks.
So we're kind of jumping around a little bit because the 5-year park plan, the outdoor rec plan that I gave a draft in that's what he's explaining. We can go through and do all the simple updates, and then there's just the simple part is to add pickleball courts, of course, onto one of the
Well, we've already said
the
we're good.
all-inclusives of projects proposed, such as dog parks and restroom facilities, and we could add pickleball courts on there. But part of the component of this has to come with this. So it kind of all has to go together. So before we can actually adopt this 5-year, we have to do this too, because it's part of the appendix. So we'll be working on kind of both of them at the same time, updating this to say pickleball courts, putting pickleball courts in here if they choose, and what year they want to put it in as a capital request. Once you put it in as a capital request, of course, that doesn't mean that you'll get the funding, because as you can see, some of them described as donations. So like the dog park, for instance, don't keep going back, but that's the most recent. They're doing fundraising for the small portion of their park now. And because we, once we committed to that, then they would, it would get added onto this list for the balance of that, because it is something. So I guess going into Grandview Park, they would just have to prioritize where all these parts of the master plan fit, whether pickleball courts fits in the overall 5-year plan, so.
Because thanks to,
Two-step process.
you know,
First
thanks to
we-
Ron Weller, when we were doing our plan in 2016, he brought pickleball to the attention of the park board, and we had asked for in our original planning and budgeting, we had asked for $75,000 for pickleball courts to go in at White Camp Park. Had that taken place, there would be 4 courts out there now, kind of thing. So our plan is to put pickleball courts in terms of the master plan listing in Burton. Makes sense if we're ever going to do something there. Burton. Lakefront, throw them in, at least in the heading, that it's there to be a consideration. Obviously, in Grandview, the area that we've been talking about, wanting to do it on the eastern side there. White Camp we've already got. Can't do it anywhere in Prospect because it's active. You know, so that's the kind of thing we'll try and put into the plan as we roll that then and try and look at prioritizing what projects. For example, we had planned to ask for to do $250,000 for a bathroom out at Grandview because already the demand by the usage that is there is really generating that. That fits very well with what we're trying to do with pickleball courts as well. So the more we can dovetail projects like that together and have some economies of scale going with them, I think it helps us as well. Any input from you guys? I'm sorry. Would any of you like to take the podium and address us quickly while we're talking about the subject?
I just have a question.
Please just go to the podium and who you are, and that would be great.
Yeah, my name is Arvid Ledeen. Live at 1609 Cronin Circle. And just a question, so like the revision of this 5-year plan, what's the kind of the timing on doing something like that?
Well, the outdoor rec plan, I guess if you revise it, we can revise it, but it wouldn't, this is part of it, so by summer, this summer we'll have to have it done because going into the next cycle of capital funds, we have to have 1920 requests put in for that. So it'll definitely be by the summer.
And then the city is also redoing their at the same time the city is doing our overall general plan, that this will be part of connecting with that. And they're in the process of starting that here this spring, I believe.
And with the there's 13 parks that we have identified here. Some of them are going to be, like Pat said, very easy to get through. You know, the other ones are going to take a little time, and to say a few months, a couple meetings. I don't know if we have to walk through every park like we did a couple years ago.
That's what all this is based on, is the walkthroughs
It's a
over the years.
walkthrough. So if we're going to do modifications, I don't know if we can just do a couple every meeting or something like that, or have a special meeting. But that's up to.
Yeah, because this list all came about from the park board visiting each of the parks. And then when in each park, we made recommendations or notes of what we thought needed to be worked on going into the future, and that is what went into developing this one. I think we're pretty clear on where they are now.
So with everything said.
Yeah.
With everything said, White Camp Park has been identified in 2017 for pickleball. In fact, there was even some monies identified. According to this, we have funds available in the park dedication fees, and that would be a new addition which would qualify some of these funds to be used. With that said, right now, if the park board would approve it, there could be White Camp as a possibility, but right now, it seems like you're tending to go toward Grandview, which there's no funding and it hasn't been identified yet. I'm sorry?
Where there's money, we'll go.
Oh, well, and I know, and we have, visited White Camp, and with the layout of the pipes and everything, I don't think we're going to get eight courts together at White Camp. You might, I don't know. We went up and looked at it. Yeah, might be some up areas, possibility up with the water tower. That flat area up there, depending on some pipes and things up there. But then there's some other areas by the storm pond. So to have 8 courts all together, it would be challenging. Even 4 courts together was a challenge. So that's kind of why we, when we looked at the 2 different parks, we kind of leaned toward Grandview Park, especially where we identified it, on the north end, the northeast corner of the park, just east of the Castle Park playground. So that's kind of where we're at, but if we go to Grandview, there's no funds identified, and we have to, it's easy, like Deb said, to put it in the 5-year plan, but we still have to get it in here. And
you're referencing here. What is here?
Grandview?
Capital request?
The capital
request. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm done.
Thank you. Michael Lambert, counsel for the Pickleball Association. The questions I have for you, Tom, and we did walk White Camp to look at the constructions, and we were stymied because of the sewer drain and storm drains. I did talk to the city engineer, and he said probably for 10 or 15,000, that's not a problem. We could move them, which surprised me because I'm of course ignorant about pipe. So that's one option we were not aware of when we were out there. So when it warms up next week, I think I'll go back out there, and maybe if you have time, you can join me and we can walk it again to get an idea. The question that raises on the park dedication fees, when you talk about current balance of $390,000 approximately south of I-94 and future collections of $15,000, is that time period for 2018, 2019, 2020? What does it mean, future collections?
That's what new development will increase that fund. New development.
As projects that are currently online.
So it's online and it will be collected within a certain time period?
Available.
Yeah, when the lots are sold, building lots are sold, when, maybe the old dog track is redeveloped, things like that.
Okay. Second part of the question is, in the event that if it gets approved, and we do not use those funds at Y Camp to build pickleball courts, and we're mentioned for 2018, does that line item disappear then for 2019, or do they roll over?
Usually it goes forward, or, just.
What, for the pickleball courts at White Camp, you mean?
Yes.
Well, it's up to the park board if they want to include it. If we do want to just
If we ask for it, we can ask for them
get rid of it.
to be used somewhere. And if the project is, and they're earmarked, let's say, for that, and the project in developing time and everything else doesn't get completed, all of it in 18, and part of it then gets pushed into 19 to do it, if that answers your question.
Yes. Well,
Where I believe I'm under the impression that once the dollars are committed, they remain committed to the end of the project completion, not necessarily the calendar year.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
and the key element is that once committed or approved by the park and city council, or just the park board?
Yeah, it has to go to the city council. Yeah, final.
Recommendation comes from here.
If
The final say.
If the park board decides on the recommendation to go ahead in 2019 and build courts or additional courts at Grandview, would this park dedication fees in Area A be available for that purpose?
All of the dollars in Area A would that
The problem is,
83 currently plus the 71 that's projected, goes in, for example, does that go into the bathroom at Grandview as it was originally projected to go with? Or does that go to other new things that were in that plan already?
And the answer is?
That'll be decided where we want to allocate the dollars to go. And then hopefully by then we'll have a better idea of what it's looking like in general for on the city side of things as to how much, what they're looking at for caps for borrowing or projects going into the future too.
Because you mentioned earlier, was cited that the bathrooms, a great idea, was around $250,000. So when you have that figure, plus there's other items in your sheet that I looked at, so you would probably use all the park dedication fees and then look for a bond issue to make up the deficit. So if you decide in 2019 to build 6 pickleball courts at Grandview, would you allocate, in theory, part of the dedication fees and realizing that we're in 2019, bond money as well then?
It'd be the same funding mechanism, yes.
And that is the next bonding request cycle is going to be 2019, so 2020. Generally, the city's been bonding every 2 years. So we'll be looking at bonding requests, I think, probably next fall, next September, August, September, October. We'll get all our things in as public works. I'll have to say, okay, I need a new snowplow, I need a new road grader, and in parks we need something for parks. We need a new roof for bands, something like that. And then the police department's going to say, hey, we need a new squad car. Ambulance might need a new ambulance. So everyone puts their requests in, and then the city council has to decide what they're going to bond for and how much.
After hearing the conversation today, can we as an association feel comfortable going out to the public now to start raising funds to help build these courts? Can we say with confidence that the pickleball courts will be a line, if that's the correct term, a line item for Wakefield plus Grandview for 2019, White Camp, excuse me, for 2018, that we will be on the master plan and capital improvement plan?
I think that what we collectively need to determine is do we even want to have anything at White Camp and be diluted, for lack of a better word, by having dollars and energy go there, as opposed to keeping the focus on doing it at whatever turns out to be the best location. Right now I'm going to say that that's at Grandview, and that we as the park board, and I don't mean to speak, but I believe that the park board feels that we want to put it in the plan. We want to do everything we can on our side of things to try and keep it going forward, to be able to put it into the bonding, to go for the dollars as soon as we can. And I don't think we'd have to talk about it, but I don't think we'd have a problem whatsoever with arriving at that position shortly of saying, here it is, and here's the drawings, and let's try and make it happen. But putting the cart before that horse, we don't want to get ourselves and you in a position where we've said we're going to do something, we start moving towards something, and then we haven't got the dollars to follow through. You know what I mean? So that we all feel confident that, yep, we can bite this off and it can get accomplished, and the project will be done successfully the way you want it done, so it functions the way you want it to, instead of doing it piecemeal and it never really getting done right or the way it should have been done had we had the money to do it right the first way. Did that make sense?
Well, it does. I'll reiterate my concern. I want to be able to go out to various foundations and we start doing the grant writing this next week with the belief that the park board will strongly recommend that pickleball possibility, the concept we can build at Y Camp maybe in 2018 or 2019 at Grandview. I won't be saying it's a done deal.
No.
But the concept is there, and the city council is going to vote on whether they're going to use park dedication fees or bonding money, or just say, no, we've changed our mind. But we can at least say it's a line item now, it's real.
I believe so.
It's a line item.
You've got this to look back upon, right, as our stand. I mean, we're trying to be as supportive as we can to help it come about.
And we certainly, we do feel that. The only other question I have, was there ever a legal opinion issued by council whether or not park dedication fees can be used from one zone to another zone, or even a short-term loan from one zone to another zone?
I don't know about the loan part, and I'm speaking on the former on being able to cross lines. If it's full, if I understood it correctly, if we were trying to purchase a piece of property, which is going to be like Grandview was, that's going to be the benefit of the entire community, but it just happens to be on that side of the line, but it's a benefit for the whole community, that those dollars could be used in something like that, as opposed to in something that's already existent over there.
I want to make sure I'm clear.
If
you do an improvement.
No, I'm not saying an improvement. If a piece of property came up for sale that the city wanted to buy, and we took those funds to help fund it and do it, that would be okay, because it was acquiring new property, new land, and it's going to benefit everyone in the community, both A and B sides of the line, so to speak. And I use Grandview as an example of that. It wasn't a neighborhood park, it's a city facility. White Camp was has a citywide impact besides just being a neighborhood. Burton, is neighborhood. Does that help?
So you can cross one zone to another zone when you're purchasing real estate on behalf of the community, because it improves the entire community. Can you also do the same argument saying that if you build pickleball courts, everybody in the city of Hudson can come play there? It has to be real
because
estate.
there's places. It says a fee for the acquisition or internal improvements of land for public parks must bear a rational relationship to the need for the land dedicated. It really has to be land, kind of dirt.
Yeah, I thought it might, but I wanted to check.
Yep.
Chair, do you have any questions? Thank you.
So,
if you'd like to give me a call next week, we certainly can go up and look at White Camp again. I'd be open
Yes,
to that.
it's going to be 40 degrees, so we
Now-
can get the snow drift.
Yeah, bring your mud boot or your boots.
would it be beneficial for you to be able to go to your foundations and the like if you had a resolution from the park board tonight saying that we are in favor of the pickleball courts going into Grandview Park, and we'll be doing whatever we can to help facilitate that coming about? Would that?
Very much so. It also will help our alliance with the YMCA, knowing that that's been
Yeah.
I
passed.
don't think we can do that, because we don't have anything on here.
Oh, we can't do that because we don't have anything on the agenda saying that we are going to
I don't
do that tonight. But we can have it as an item on the agenda next time, and you've got our position as to how we feel about it.
Okay.
Is that enough to help on your side of things? Okay.
And I'm Deanne DeGraff, and I just wanted to add that the Y has verbally told us that if the city is on board, they are 99.9% on board also.
Fantastic.
So it would be a three-way partnership.
I think we can go to the hospital foundation too.
Yes.
And buy into it. So maybe if it would be beneficial to get to us for the next meeting what we need as a resolution to make everybody comfortable
I
with.
wanted to ask about the resolution thing. Because what is that resolution? Can you? We have a new resolution ordinance, and I'm not sure if it's specific.
Well, are we doing a resolution or are we doing a recommendation?
A recommendation.
Because it's
I
a
mean,
recommendation
Yeah.
to the city
Yeah.
council.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
a
just-
recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, not a
And
resolution.
then-
And here at the meeting,
Okay.
you'd be making a resolution, you'd be
Yeah.
moving an item.
And then something that we could do tonight, I mean, can
I
we?
can't make a motion.
No, there's no motion, but can you poll the members of the park board on how what their feelings are about this, so that we would have that information?
Sure. How do you feel about it?
I think pickleball courts is an excellent idea.
I support it.
Yeah? Yeah, you're in favor of it? and-
I would be in support.
So I think that's as much as we're capable of giving you tonight, and we can put together whatever is needed in a more formal sense for the next month's meeting and work off of that. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have one quick question, not related to pickleball, so. When we look at the master plan and we get to lakefront, are we gonna have access to the waterfront vision study?
That's what, yes.
That would be part of the
That, yep.
process?
That will be part of that.
So we can incorporate that into, okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yeah, I don't know how
Thank
they're.
you.
I don't know how they're going to
Split it
deliver
out,
that
or-
to us, but we should be part of that presentation
Okay.
to us as to what their recommendations are going to be and how we feel about it. But they were really emphatic with the city when they pitched us on being able to do the study, that their value was going to be in their ability to come up with funding to pay for majority of everything, or get it through the process more expediently than normal.
One last thing, sir, if we do nothing else, can we please regrade Burton Field? I know I'll never see it done in my day, but I'd like to see at least regraded, and so we can get a decent ice skating rink. And I was looking through this, and that's one thing that stuck out to me, is can we at least do that?
We were just talking about that before the meeting, that would be something we should be going for
Yeah.
before next year, is to get that regraded and then deal with the layout of the diamonds
Yeah.
and the like on it after it, but to get that graded so it can be
It would
flooded
just- It
easier.
would just improve everything, you know.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there are some grants available. I sent you that information that the Minnesota Twins have grants available for community ball fields.
I don't know.
Would there be somebody who could write a grant proposal for that?
Look at it, see how detailed it is, you know.
Okay.
but, Yeah.
All right. 'Cause
I haven't seen it. If you sent it, did you
Yeah,
copy me on it? I didn't.
This was a year ago or so.
it was probably last summer, yeah.
I might have it in my pile of things here.
I can look for it again.
Okay, yeah.
Do the
I'll write a
brewers
note
have
to myself.
anything like that?
The what?
Do the brewers have anything like that available?
Well, the Minnesota Twins, it
We're not a
wasn't
recreational
it wasn't
park.
specific to Minnesota. It was
It is.
in any state.
Sure.
Boosters and them could probably apply, but.
For purposes tonight, Tom, do you want us just to continue looking at the
Yeah, I
capital
mean-
improvement plan and then have a more formal
Yeah, I really need.
go-through?
Yep, I think, like I said, this is pretty easy, the updating the outdoor. And keep in mind, it doesn't have the pictures. I'll change the cover and whatever. I can do all that, but it's just more just seeing where the pickleball's going to fit I think it just goes under dog park.
Yeah.
That's what it seems. Or do you want to specifically say Grandview Park?
Could we
restroom,
be more
shelter, and
generic in case
pickleball
they
courts?
change?
I would say where
That's
they fit,
right.
or where possible. Or where appropriate.
Well, right, because if it's listed on here, that this is all pertains to grant requests. So if it's, you know,
Yeah, what page is that, Deb, that you would
the
add
very
that?
last page, actually.
14?
17?
Oh. So that's pretty easy there, but we need to, go through every park and say, and that would be the big question, we're gonna utilize our park fees for a restroom? Does that make more sense to have the restroom first, or spend the money and put in pickleball at Grandview courts? I mean, we already identified having restrooms at Grandview.
And see, I think that's kind of, that's how my interpretation is from Catherine. If you haven't fulfilled what's on the master plan, then really, then the master plan should be amended or changed or.
What's available in Grandview Park for restrooms?
It's right up by the concession stand. There's that building where the concession stand, there's a men's and ladies' bathroom in there. And then in the wintertime, we put a.
Well, all summer, we have it all year.
That's year-round down by the playground.
How many stalls are in the ones by the concession stand?
Couple, I believe.
Yeah.
It's
Not
not
very
all that
many.
big.
It was sized for being all the diamonds being used and it being an active time in the park.
Okay.
So,
I'm not sure, I know there's a couple, and the ladies, maybe there's 3, but
Okay, so not that many, but
No.
Enough for that area of the park, but it's not convenient for the families who are utilizing the
Playground.
playground
Playground or
area.
the-
And I've gotten some
yeah.
requests for restroom facilities closer to the playground and something that's not a porta potty, because when you're working with kids, you don't want to be taking them into porta potties and then
No.
not having a place to wash hands and things like that.
yeah. So that would be the big question, if you're gonna, we've already, the park board's already identified the restroom. Are you gonna keep sliding that one down and put something in front of it? That would be the big question.
I don't think that's a good idea. I think that it's time to get that restroom built, especially if we're going to be putting in pickleball courts. I think
That would only add to the problem.
exactly.
It's gonna add more need.
Yeah.
Yes, which means, and with the dog park there now too, where would the restrooms go?
Well, on the master plan.
I think if you look on this map, even the current topo of Grandview Park, you can see where the play area is, and then you see that rectangular box. East of that says proposed pickleball courts. In between the playground and where the proposed pickleball courts, there's a shade structure and what used to be an old volleyball court. So somewhere in that area.
Okay.
I would.
I think probably where the shade structure is, and then the old play equipment that's still up there.
Yeah.
That would be all.
Just east of the tower or the Castle Park playground. In between where the pickleball court would go.
Because it would be really nice to have a pavilion area there, because we do rent that out a lot, actually. And
if it was a nice restroom where, there was a shade structure similar to what we have up at White Camp, we could rent it for picnics and,
because we already do just right now, we
And-
reserve it. Even if you had a smaller one on one side, you could have a bigger even on the other.
and then if the pickleball people had a tournament, they could even have the possibility of a shade structure.
There could be concessions.
Concessions, they could have their food station or something there, so. Yeah, I don't know, that's just my feeling. I think that should be where the money goes first.
Yeah.
I agree.
And we just built a restroom up at Anderson Park, and that was donated, but it's small, and we do have some enough room for picnic tables on one end and the other, but then it's just a one small little bathroom, and that was 140,000.
I was gonna ask how much that was,
So,
so, yeah.
you know, this 250 isn't gonna,
No.
we're gonna need some help even with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, if you put the pickleball courts in, you know, Grandview, deciding what year to put it in, and then how we did the dog park, they had a kind of an idea of how much they figured they were going to donate. And the city council pretty much said, well, once, you know, you bring all the money to the table, then we'll talk. So they may say that, you know, they might
Oh, I think
fund the whole thing.
I think the pickleball people will have their ducks in a row and everything within a month or 6 weeks and be able to say, here, you know.
Well, if they came up
And-
with some, you know, I was surprised at that one meeting. I said, well, what if you just have, they want 8. I said, what if you take 2 or 4, you know, and cut that, even if you take 4 and you're at, you know, I know the city engineer came up with $160,000, so that would be 80, but then they came up with 116. I don't know which one's the best one to go by, but, so even if you did half of the 116 is still, you know, 60,000 or.
Plus engineering, plus all the bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think where I was
Little
going
more
with it
than
is
they
that
did.
there's other source. The pickleball people are going to be able to tap sources of funding
Versus,
that we aren't going to be able to get at and that we could never tap for a bathroom.
right, right.
Yes.
And if we do the bathrooms and make that
A priority.
a priority and get that done at the time that the demand for the pickleballs is also taking place, I think everybody benefits from that.
Because there could be excavation involved in both, and maybe you'd get a better, you know, it'd be a project where you'd have both of them included.
Yeah.
Might get a better price for excavation and things like that. Possible.
I think future park boards are going to be faced with taking a look at the softball diamonds. Are they busy enough? Is softball remaining busy enough for them to stay doing it? From talking to them, they were talking about how it has fallen off, so as a sport, participant sport, that's a big piece of ground.
Well, we're meeting tomorrow, or next week, actually.
At that particular park or across the board for us?
At that particular park, that those 4 diamonds take up a lot of space. That in the future, if softball continues to decline, it's going to be hard to justify all that land for that usage when other activities like pickleball and those kinds of things are coming along and growing. I know the Tennis Association has been on the pickleball people saying, why can't we stripe some of the courts for, you can play pickleball on a tennis court, you know, why can't you line some of them that way?
So would
'Cause we
that be
don't-
something we do to those
Well, but that's my
pickleball?
point. We've got other sports. We could easily have more tennis courts in the town, in the community. We don't have the land or the facilities for them. But from listening to what they were saying last time they were here with our contract with the softball association, that they're struggling.
They're struggling, but it seems like the booster organization.
Boosters is going strong.
Strong, and
Yeah.
that's why they want to really, they'd like to take it all.
They'd like to take it all over.
So
And that might be a good thing,
Yep.
you know, to utilize it.
that's something we maybe should consider tracking this summer, the usage or.
We track it out all summer. We have it all summer long. We have a schedule because we have it for years, so years of tracking. Because it's used heavily for practices, as far as, you know, how much we get park user fees. Yeah, so, you know.
So I'm clear from this point forward, are we looking at setting a public hearing first before we delve into this? Because I'd like to get input from the community, so I'm not trying to imagine that I know what's best for the community, but I'm listening to input. And I know in the past, we've done you know, maybe a couple of survey monkeys for different things. Would that be something to at least attempt? I know sometimes we don't get a lot of good responses back with that, but at least we would get a
now.
sampling,
I think it's a great idea.
you know?
We can talk to our IT guy, because I know that they have some different ones out there. The last one we did was kind of
That was a Burton Field one, I think.
Well, you know, for instance, today I just went on a website and looked up the demographics for Hudson and tried to get an idea of how really old we are or how young we are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting to look at those numbers and see what kind of responses we get back. Obviously, pickleball's got a following. Maybe, like you said, the softball, who knows? Maybe that's just going through what it's going through.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it would be nice to hear from the public and then kind of make a decision
Yeah, I
or
think,
decisions based on that. If that's okay.
I think we should
Yeah.
look at when do we want to do that? In May, at the May meeting? That would give us time to get the word out on it and, you know, what's behind it, and then have the May meeting open.
And again, you probably
Yeah.
aren't going to get a great turnout, but at least you'll get some ideas. And
If we at least give people the opportunity
Right.
in an avenue by which they can,
You want it
Express.
on as an agenda item, you mean, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
you know, looking at, for instance, the White Camp, when we redid the playground at White Camp, you know, I mean, it's unbelievable the use that place gets in the summer.
yep.
You know, just something that simple.
Right. And that's why, you know, and if you look at, in White Camp Park, we had, you know, the community center.
Right.
You know, that was what was planned, and is there room for expansion of that? I'll tell you, if we had another, I guarantee you, if we had another pavilion out there that
Right.
was big enough, it would be rented. It would-
Yeah.
It would be filled, so.
Easily rented.
I did notice that Grandview Park is actually scheduled for walking trails for this year. Is that something that we'd like to go up and pursue? I know the last trail project we did, we went from where the Universal Playground is now, and we went up to the top of the hill, and then we went up to the top of the sliding hill, and then back down toward the parking lot. We did leave a little stub. I mean, at one time, we talked about making a trail further west,
Right.
up and then go around the water tower and back. So, I mean, we do have funds, and it is identified, so I don't know if the park board would like to
Well, it even
pursue
shows
that.
it even shows it on here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we have funds for right now, and, you know, it could be a project for this year if you care to proceed with that.
Next year, 19.
Yeah, by the time we'd get it engineered and bids and stuff out, I guess. Probably be for next year, but we could get started on it. this
Because
year.
then, I mean, because then it would be identified in the 1920 requests, and then obviously the funds would be coming from this. They would identify the funds as here. You still have to list it as a capital, and then they determine the funds. And you can recommend that you use those funds. But,
It's already identified here.
yeah, I know it's identified, but the funding would come from here. But
Yeah.
we have to, yeah, that's what I mean. But you can't just do it this year. I mean, you have to.
All right.
You can't just do it.
Why
You
couldn't
have
we
to-
why couldn't we use dedication fees from,
Well, no, I think you can, but,
and it's something that's in the plan?
right, well, you could try. Okay.
So when you mentioned a second pavilion up there,
Yeah,
could dedication fees be used to build a second pavilion up there?
I would think so. It's
They're in
part
the,
of
it's in the master plan,
plan.
and
Yep.
the dedication fees, yes.
Yeah. So I guess with the trails situation, if we put it on as an agenda item, I guess we could find out first, like, if you want to pursue it in 18 and then just recommend using park dedication funds to fund it. I'm just not sure that,
If, it would have been nice to talk about it last fall and have everything lined up for this year. It's gonna be.
it just
a
seems like my
process.
understanding is you still need it to go into the funding cycle. And then they identify the funds, where it's going to be paid for through, so.
So does the timing of that align with having that public input at the meeting that Mike had suggested, or
Oh.
getting?
In May?
I guess, how does that align with having that input?
You mean the trails?
The trails, that would be an item then that when we talked about White Camp Park, that would be discussed for it.
Because it would, I mean,
The idea of doing that additional building out there is, or expanding what we have.
What's the capacity, or how many individuals will the current structure accommodate?
gosh.
Do we know off the top of our head?
maybe 100. Trying to think. How many do you think, Mike? Do you know? Out at White Camp in the pavilion? Did you have a party out
Is
there?
there like 12, 15 picnic
Yeah, I'm
tables?
thinking there was a dozen.
Dozen, I'd say dozen times 8
Right.
people.
Yeah.
So I'd say 100 pretty easy. And then you could
Yeah.
still stand around and there's
Right.
other tables outside.
I've used it a couple of times.
And part of the intent with that building originally too was that we'd be able to close it in the wintertime as a warming house.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah,
That would be kind of neat.
That'd be nice.
that would be a real nice feature to add to out there. That park could really get used that way. And, and again, there's something we could go in with our park dedication fees
Absolutely.
and have no trouble with. We should relook at that one again,
Yeah, I think that's a
turning that
great
into
idea.
a winter warming house.
We should-
Sure gets used a lot for sliding.
Well,
Sledding,
so I think
it'd be good for
so
sledding,
that'd
it'd be good
we
if we put in an ice rink out there.
Right.
Right.
So on
So that's what we
here,
have to be careful of, if we're gonna get this information and see where our see where our people have the interest and see where that plays with pickleball and, the overall big picture.
Yeah,
Because all of a sudden we want to plop in, or we get a lot of people that really would like a skating rink out there. Then all of a sudden, maybe the area where we had put it might, all of a sudden there's a pickleball court.
yeah, that's why I don't think we're gonna see pickleball.
So we have to be careful.
in Grandview.
Right.
well,
If we were putting in neighborhood parks, pickleball, a 4-court here, a 2-court over at Anderson's, a 2-court down, in Burton or something, we're putting around like you would basketball courts or like we did volleyball courts. But they want a facility that can hold tournaments and do
Seems
all
that,
of
yes.
that kind of, it's a different scale, or scaled up much more than what we were. So if they're clear on wanting it to go at Grandview, then that frees anything for us to do at White Camp in that same space. So if we want to turn that into a skating rink, it's a skating rink. Because pickleball has already made the decision they want to go at, as opposed to us forcing them to choose or go.
And I think it'll be good to get input from the public as to
Absolutely.
what they would like to see in the public parks, or what
In their parks,
Right.
yeah.
I'm
think that
a little
would be
concerned about
good.
May. May might be pushing it. It might be more in June.
Well, everybody's going to be busy in the summer, so to get that at the
Right.
summertime is going to be,
What,
Yeah,
is there a
but people
deadline
are
on,
vacation and going on.
Debbie, is there a deadline on capital improvement requests?
Oh, well, no, it's going to be, I would say we need to really need to focus August, September,
Next fall.
September,
We've got time.
October, because that's when we start putting everything in.
Sure.
So could we put something in the utility bill about this meeting, or to make sure folks are aware of it when we think about how do we communicate to residents, letting them know we're looking for their input? We'd like to have them attend the meeting, or send it, if we've got an email address that suggestions can be sent to, that for folks that can't attend that meeting. Is this something we could
Probably
put in
put it
the
on the-
utility bill?
We could probably put it on the city website for sure, but the utility bill gets a little tricky. It depends on what they have going on. It's depends
When
on
would we wanna
when it
do the
gets
meeting?
mailed out
When would
and
we
if
wanna-
they have space available.
Well, the utility bills go out in April, don't they?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe, could we check to see if that would be an opportunity just to get that to all the residents as another method of communicating?
when do we want to have the meeting? Into May?
I would say the sooner the better. That way it gives us an idea to absorb some of the ideas and
Yeah.
see if they're reasonable or viable or.
So if we did it at the May meeting,
May,
We'd
could
probably
get-
be able to do the utility bill.
mm-hmm.
May.
If not, onto the webpage, or both onto the webpage, and,
What's the date?
And also the survey, possibly,
yeah.
online survey.
City of Facebook?
Yeah,
There's a
Mhm.
Facebook.
Well, let's see, the May meeting is.
What?
Just looking at the dates.
Okay.
Well, I'm not gonna be here, but somebody else can.
Okay.
Well, the first Tuesday of May is the 1st,
Yeah, I won't be here.
unless we do it on the 8th.
That's why I was thinking more of the June,
Mm-hmm.
Do it at the June meeting?
the June 5th meeting.
Could we
That would,
move our meeting to another date rather than the first Tuesday? Could we meet on the second Tuesday of the month?
we could.
You could.
We could do it on that 8th
But
then,
otherwise, I mean, June
or do it
June
the,
5th, I think would be
June 5th.
a good, because you're gonna have.
where's that fall to
'Cause
Memorial
then you have
Day?
April, because we're already in March. We only have, then we'll have 2 more meetings before June. But kind of pinpoint it down and, decide what you want. What do you want at the meeting? Do you want big blow-up maps of
We have to
what's
decide, yeah.
there? I mean,
Memorial Day's on the 28th, so the 5th of May would, or the 5th of June would be a week later.
Yeah, there would be no conflict.
Tuesday.
Okay.
And would we want them in the back for a little while before the meeting so people can look and.
I know one time when we did the last outdoor rec plan, the engineers had pictures of all the parks, then a sign-up sheet, and you could put an X on there that said, hey, I'd like a basketball court or volleyball court or
I think
pickleball
that would be
court or a
great.
swimming pool or whatever. And they had a picture of every park on, around the council chambers, and you could just go and write your ideas
that
on
was
there.
part of the needs assessment, wasn't it? The overall comprehensive.
No, I think it was the last outdoor rec plan that SEH did.
Yeah.
Her name was some Erickson lady.
That was a long time ago, though.
That was.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a good way to do it, but
No, that's a really good way to do it. I
It
think.
is.
And would that have to be part of a park board meeting? Or is that something that could be held as a separate
We could do it
activity?
as a separate
Yeah, you can do it as a
event.
separate event.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
an open house.
An open house to gather the input. That would give us a
When
little
does
bit more.
school get out, I guess? What's the last day of school?
They're out early this year, middle of May or something. It's before Memorial Weekend.
Oh, that's right. They're done early.
Yeah. Middle of May.
Some night when there's not a council meeting or board meeting or a urban forestry board meeting. Well, I don't think
I think the-
public safety is on Thursday and plan is
Yeah.
on Thursday. I don't think there's a lot on Wednesday.
No.
Urban forestry is generally on a Wednesday, but
The second and fourth
Big ones of
Wednesdays are
meeting.
usually open because we had the EMS ad hoc committee meeting on that night because this was open.
how about a Wednesday, the middle of May? What's that?
But,
Have an open house from
Well, how about
5:30 to 7:30 or something, just an open house, open to the public.
Yep.
the 9th or the
Subject is
23rd.
parks.
urban forestry?
Planning for a park.
November 16th, so the 23rd, maybe.
That would be- Do you need a motion? Or
Yes.
I'll move that we hold an open house to gather public input and ideas for the park in the middle of May.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. And you'll let us know as
Yeah.
time goes, and we'll
Well, we
get
can
it on.
probably
the-
figure the 16th or the 23rd, but the 16th usually urban forestry.
Yeah, 16th would be the urban
Come to the meeting.
forestry.
They can.
Yeah, they can come to our meeting.
They would probably have a lot of input, actually.
At least we're over Arbor Day. Arbor Day's done, so we'll have a little reprieve.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have anything else for future meetings?
Just park updates, could I just do a little bit update? So, last council meeting, SEH and Ed Freer and Alex Still gave an update on the Lakefront Vision Waterfront Plan, just presented it to City Council. I don't know if you guys seen that. Projects for the parks this summer, we have some money allocated for repair of the roof at, and some of the lights at the band shell. Some money for that. Arbor Day, we're gonna be down in Lakefront Park, planting some trees down there. We got rid of some of the arbor maples, the invasive arbor maples. And what we decided was we're gonna have groups of 3 or 5 trees that have been tree of the year for the last 3-4 years. And we're gonna have them, planted in smaller groups where those other trees were.
Nice.
The turf's gonna be reestablished, so we have some good seating area, and these will be taller story trees where we can actually sit underneath them and get better shade. So that anyone who wants to come down on Arbor Day, I think it's April 28th, Saturday the 28th. At the last council meeting, we talked, it was approved that the sailing school can go on the south end of Picnic Point. They had 3 options. One was to get into the water, the old pump house of Buckeye Garage, and then that was option A. Option B was just to go down to the south end in that little triangle area on the south side of the trail. And option B1 was to have some of their sheds on the marina property, which they still may be negotiating with them.
Okay.
So the sailing school will be working with them to go down to that area for a 1-year trial. Buckeye Garage Lakefront Vision Plan identifies that as being a possibility of better restrooms, maybe a beer garden, kind of a building where they'd have a big concession stand restaurant possibility. I know the rowing club had offered up renditions of using that as a rowing storage and then so with the possibility of the sailing school, the rowing club, and Buckeye Garage being targeted as a potential improvements, the Public Works and the parks are gonna lose some storage, well, we will. So just to put it on the radar, I know there's a lot of talk about the EMS buildings or the old golf course buildings up on Ward Avenue. Possibility the new fire station. There is a smaller tin shed up there. Still a very, very nice and a large storing capacity. It'd probably be larger than our Buckeye Garage. Just to throw that out there, that I think the park board would be very interested in obtaining that and disassembling. It's a tin shed, so I think we could disassemble it and possibility move it on the north end of the walking trail on First and St. Croix in that area.
Yeah.
Maybe, we're still negotiating or talking with XL for that land. Otherwise, we could still there's enough room to put it on behind the 2 buildings we have. The rowing club. And maybe those could just go away and we'd put that 1 building there. So just on the radar, I think that the park board really should, be kind of, I'm letting it know whenever I talk to people that, I think the park board would be very interested in that building if the Buckeye, and especially if that Buckeye Garage goes away.
Regardless.
Well, that sounds like a good use
Regardless,
for
we want
that building. And as far as, has anybody else expressed interest in that building?
Not that I
The
know
Buckeye
of.
Garage?
No, the one on
one
Ward
on-
Avenue.
Not that I know of, because I think if the fire station goes in, it would have to be removed anyway.
Yeah.
So-
I don't know if there's room for that. There's room for the larger building, but I don't know if there was
Yeah.
room for the smaller one.
So just something to consider, so.
Yeah, we should get that if we can.
Yeah,
Ken, so-
sounds like a good fit for that building. And then the council also voted to exempt the city from the goat ordinance restrictions, so.
So we can, and that was important because we have been, Pat, I know the Rotary Club there's been an application in the
Yep.
Rotary Club. We won't find out till May or so. And Excel Energy, there's another grant that has been filled out by Mr. Malek and sent in on behalf, I think it's from the Wild Wings Association or group. And we made a request to the mayor for room tax dollars to possibly be used for invasive species on behalf of the wild wings, the tropical wings migration, bird migrations.
That's a good use for it.
Yeah.
I think so because I guess there's bird watchers are bringing more tourists than many of the other attractions, I guess. So the lady that runs that business has agreed to. She wanted to kind of lock in by March, and she said she just felt that she would be able to kind of hold off till May when we hear possibly from some of the grants. So there's still hope for the goats.
Yep.
Good.
Buckthorn eradication.
I tried to get them to keep those goats, but I'm only one person.
I'm sorry I wasn't there to help you on that one.
We're making good progress, so I think there's a good chance.
Good.
That's all I have.
When are they going to do the bridge project or start on the dike?
The project has been bid, and the bids are in, and I know we're going to have a pre-con meeting possibly next week. The project was scheduled to start, construction for April and May, but if we get the contracts and the pre-construction meeting in, they can start as soon as weather permits.
And how long will it be?
Could be 2 months. They have to be done by Memorial Weekend.
Okay.
They want to be done by then.
So,
These guys are really fast.
Mhm.
What is it, PCI Roads or something?
it's a big company, so I hope it goes well.
Yeah. We'll see how the park holds up to flooding this spring. But shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
As we go. If nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.